What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today I'm going to give you my personal guidelines to getting bigger arms. If you watch my older videos, you would know that I had what you would call a spider physique. Basically, a physique in which the limbs are lanky or they're lagging behind the torso, which is usually way thicker than the limbs, giving this illusion of a spider, term coined by natural hypertrophy. I realized that that type of physique wasn't aesthetic at all. So I decided to get my shit together and focus my programs on growing my arms. And I employed different strategies that I'm going to showcase today, or that I'm going to show you today. Before we can move on, I want to give an answer to how do we get a spider physique. Of course, the easy answer is going to be it's genetics, right? I'm very torso dominant. I have very long arms. My wrists are small, or something like that. Um, of course, that's the easy answer and the comfortable answer. I'm going to give you the real answer, and that is you have a tonnage deficit of your arms compared to your torso. You will see a lot in the powerlifting community and in the calisthenics. I wouldn't even call it a bubble. It's more of a Tupperware because they don't listen to anyone except calisthenics athletes. Um, you would see. I'm going to talk about mainly calisthenics because I'm not that well versed into the powerlifting scene. I'm going to go towards the calisthenics community. You'd see a lot of dogmatic guys that believe that you can get optimal growth in your biceps from doing chin-ups and straight arm work, and that you're going to get monster triceps by just doing dips and weighted dips, right? And diamond push-ups. That's what you usually hear, right? And I must say, those guys are pretty dogmatic, if not stupid, because those are compound movements in which the limiting factor is going to be other muscles. For skill work, especially straight arm work, what it's going to cause you to fail, it's not going to be your biceps, maybe the biceps tendon if you don't have it developed, but that it's injury, not growth. But in terms of muscles, what it's going to give out first is going to be your core, your lats, your shoulders, your traps, maybe. Definitely not your biceps, okay? And for chin ups, what it's going to give up or what it's going to fail first is going to be your back, not your biceps, unless you're doing like a super narrow grip, in which you would basically call it vertical biceps curl. Um, and your biceps are going to be the limiting factor in that specific case. That we're going to talk about later. But now, talking about regular chin ups, what it's going to give out first is going to be your back. Same goes with forearms and pull-ups, and same goes with dips and triceps, right? Where what it's going to give out first is going to be your chest, not your triceps, unless again you really skew the movement towards triceps emphasis, right? But the dip that all everyone does is going to be mainly a chest movement, chest and shoulders, not so much triceps. So when they do those compound movements in which the limbs are not the limiting factor, um, the torso gets an decent, not decent, they get enough stimulus to grow. Meanwhile, the arms get neglected. They don't get enough stimulus because they didn't fail. Especially arms, you need to take to failure or close to it. So imagine if you don't even take them to failure, right? And on top of that, you're not even like uh, directly targeting them, right? They're just an auxiliary muscle. Uh, they're going to not grow as much as the chest, for example, on dips, right? And the next time you go on to do dips, right? Your chest is going to be bigger, and your triceps are going to be either the same size or even shrink if you used to, for example, isolate your muscles and you no longer do it. But basically, your chest is going to overpower even more the next time you're going to do a compound, and that accumulates over time, and you end up with a pretty huge imbalance, leading to a spider physique. So to remedy that, you have to start skewing your program to the other way, to your weakness, to your arms, right? And that's what I'm going to show you today, the guidelines. Basically, it follows this scheme. It's the most important things are the ones in red, the ones that are going to give you like I want to say 85% of the results approximately. I made up that percentage, but yeah, it's going to give you like an an absurdly high amount of the results. Then the yellow part is going to give you like 10% of the results, maybe like 12.5% of the results, and the rest you're going to get from this. If you want to get that cherry on top, that's when you do this. But The most important thing is following these three steps right here. And then as you get more advanced, you can start employing this right here. And if you get really advanced, you can start employing these ones right here. But the most important thing, and I can't stress this enough because I know a lot of you fuckers that are going to watch this video and you're going to end up doing just this, and you're going to do whatever on this. This, especially right here, these two steps are very important, and most of you that are watching this video are not going to want to accept that this is the way to getting results, to getting bigger arms. But yeah, going on a rant. Basically, the top three are the ones that are going to get the most results. Yellow, less results, and blue, less results. So we can start with this step one: isolate. Okay. Most often than not, people don't isolate their biceps, triceps, forearms, etc. Because not because of physical impediment, but more a psychological impediment. Basically, you have a psychological barrier that you don't want to really isolate your muscles. It can be the reluctance to not wanting to change your program. It can be thinking that isolations are boring, or that maybe you have a bad relationship with isolations because you used to do a lot of pump work and didn't get a lot of results, so you think that they're not effective. It can be a lot of things, but usually it's a psychological barrier that you really don't want to isolate your biceps or your triceps, your arms in general. You don't want to isolate them. So to destroy that psychological barrier, we need to start easy. Okay, we need to first build a habit and make you feel familiar with isolating your arms, and then you can get more strict with yourself. Okay, build first that nice relationship with isolation movements, and then improve from there. Pick 1 to 2 exercises per muscle for the ones in parentheses that you like or tolerate, and fit your anthropometry, right? Movements that don't stress your joints too much, movements that you like, or at least, sorry for that sounds on the street. Basically, pick movements that you like or tolerate, that you're indifferent from, right? It can be cables, dumbbells, bands, rings, just your body weight, like Sphinx push-ups, for example. It can be whatever, but pick an isolation movement that you tolerate, basically. And you're going to do 3 to 4 sets of isolations 2 to 3 times per week, non-negotiable. That meaning you're going to do it no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're tired. It doesn't matter if you feel that you work your arms enough through compounds, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anything, right? Just you're going to do it no matter what. You have to have that mindset, right? Every time you want to skip, think of yourself watching yourself on the mirror and seeing those lanky arms. That is going to help you a lot. That using body dysmorphia to destroy the body dysmorphia, something like that, and use that as motivation to really start building the habit. Doesn't You don't have to go to failure yet. RP doesn't matter. What matters is that you're going through the motions and building that familiarity with the motions. Go for consistency, not results. You will still get some results because of newbie gains, right? Everyone gets results from newbie gains when they first started out lifting. They will do whatever and still get growth. Well, the same applies here. You will get some arm gains, which will encourage you to keep going. But it's not the main point of this step. The main point is to build the consistent habit. I would say go mostly for higher reps, 12 to 20, to build the tendon strength and prepare the joints for the next steps. Also allows you to have stricter technique and to really start building that mind muscle connection, which it's not the end all be all for arms, right, or for movements in general, but it can help when you move on to more intense techniques. Feeling that muscle contracting, it will help you to get those extra reps at the end. Um, Progressive overload should still take place. You're not going to failure, but you should still slowly try to increase the reps, better the technique, and then increase the weight. What you want to do is try to perfect the technique. Again, a control eccentric and a squeeze at the top. And it should last tops 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, this is to build a habit. Then comes step two, which is going to be increase RPE. You have successfully built the habit of isolating your arms. Now you have a base from which you can move forward. It's better to ensure for arms quality over quantity. You would see a lot in programs, especially steroid users. They would make you do like 10 sets of arms per workout, like just 10 sets of 50, right? Just pump, get blood into the muscle, you know. And it ends up being just junk volume, right? You see 10 sets, every single set has a drop set, and you end up just doing curls with a pink dumbbell, something like that. That's junk volume. You want to ensure it's better to do like 3 sets of 8 to 12 where you really take it to failure and really struggle to get that last rep, right? Then to do like 10 to 20 sets of mechanical drops at pink dumbbell time under tension movements, okay? So ensure that it is better if you, let's say you want to isolate your arms, right, at the end of a workout. It is better if you just do 2 sets, but those 2 sets were fucking brutal that you couldn't even get like a smidget of range of motion, you know? It's better to get those 2 sets than to do 5 sets with just going through the motions, okay? So you already have the habit. Now try to push yourself a little bit forward and increase the RPE. Start challenging yourself. Start with RPE 8 on mid length or stretch biased isolations and RPE 10 on concentric focused isolations. What I mean by this with mid-length or stretch bias or concentric is which part of the range of motion are you emphasizing. Mid-length would be like a barbell curl, stretch bias would be like a pelican curl, and concentric focus would be like a spider curl, right? Or maybe a band curl, in which the top portion is the hardest. The RP difference is because when you fail with a concentric portion, you still have a lot of range of motion to keep going through. So um, if you're not even going to failure on concentric movements, you're wasting a lot. So I would say go to failure on concentric focus isolations. And when I mean failure, it's not, oh, it was hard. It was, I was pushing against the weight and my arm was going the other way, right? I was curling, but my elbows kept extending because I couldn't get the weight up. That is failing, right? And with RP8 for mid length or stretch bias, especially for stretch bias because they're already more stimulatory than concentric focused. And on top of that, you can compromise your tendons. So it's better if you hold back a little bit, at least for now, and slowly build up the RPE increase. As time goes by, you should be increasing the RPE to 9 to 10 on both, and you should learn to reach actual failure in isolations. There are no drawbacks on going beyond failure in isolations because they're not that fatiguing. A lot of people say, oh no, you shouldn't go to beyond failure on curls because you're going to accumulate a lot of fatigue and you won't be able to recover. That's bullshit. For isolations, you're not going to get super fatigued from going beyond failure. It's negligible the amount of fatigue you get from going beyond failure in isolations. Step three, and this is the last one of the most important one, is increasing volume. Arms respond great to high quality volume, high quantity and high quality volume. Arms can recover pretty fast, okay? And they get taxed pretty easily, so your volume should be spread out. You have a solid ground for getting results. You have 6 to 12 sets for arms that are in the RP 9 to 10, and if you want, you can go even beyond failure, and you should start seeing some newbie gains on your arms. For those of you that are in a tonnage deficit, okay, that are in a big tonnage deficit like I was, you have to keep catching up, okay? You have to keep going, right? You have to really refine the process to really focus on your arms. And what you have to do is basically enter a maintenance phase for those muscles that are overpowering or you don't care about. For me, it was stop training legs because why would I train legs when they are already big by themselves, right? And they make my physique in terms of upper body look even smaller. So I stopped training legs. I had a higher volume budget, let's just say. Basically, you lower the other muscle groups so you can increase your volume budget so you can spend it on arms. And that is basically it. You increase volume on your arms. before you were doing 6 to 12, you're going to increase one set to the total volume. So if you were doing like 6, you're going to increase to 7, then to 8, then to 9, and so on, ensuring that RP stays super high until you reach a compatible amount of sets, right? Some people may need more sets, some people may need less sets. You will find that it is usually in the 10 to 20 total sets per week, but again, some may work on 25, others may work on just 8, right? So it's very individual. I would recommend, if you're increasing your volume by a lot, you should also increase your exercise rotation to prevent overuse, especially with the arms, which they're very prone to injury. Um, then what you're going to do, because the volume is so high, you want to minimize the risk of junk volume, you want to spread it throughout the week, because the arms get taxed pretty fast, but also recover pretty fast because they are small muscle groups. It's like your calves. You probably can do more than 3 to 5 sets of calves per workout, but then the next day you're able to do calves again. So it's the same thing. To minimize junk volume, again, spread it out in 2 to 4 sessions per week. Um, like on your upper body days, it could be, or if you want, you can have it every single session. If you're doing, for example, full body 3 times a week, include arm movements, every single day. Your sets per muscle in those 2 to 4 sessions should be either in the 2 to 4 set range, or in the 3 to 5. It depends on your total volume, and of course, along your program, you can use 2 to 4 and 3 to 5 in a mixture, right, throughout the week, just so you can hit your numbers. For me, 3 to 4 sets is the sweet spot. You have to find your sweet spot, and it will allow you to apply progressive overload, recover in time, accumulate high effort sets, and avoid tendon and joint issues. Again, I must stress that exercise rotation is pretty important if you're going high frequency, right? The higher the frequency, the more exercise rotation you should have to prevent overuse. Step 5 is going to be, once you're already isolating your arms enough, you want to start biasing the compounds. This is just to get that extra thing, okay? You're just by the isolations going to, sorry, mosquito. I'm not Rectus, I swear. Just by increasing, like just by implementing isolations with a decent amount of sets taken to high RPs, you're going to get a lot of the results. But if you want to catch up fast, okay, it's very recommended that you start to bias the compound, so you can increase that little, like so you can add that little bit of like extra tonnage, and it's going to speed up the process a little bit more. It will also translate or radiate a little bit to the regular compounds, in which you're not biasing your arms, because when you start doing arm biased compounds, you will start feeling your arms in the regular compounds. It would have like a radiation effect. That's what I wanted to say. Uh, as a general rule, the narrower the grip or the bigger the range of motion, the more arm involvement you're going to have. For example, if you go from a regular bench press to a cambered bar close grip bench press, right, it's going to involve more of the triceps. If you start doing it on incline, right, it's going to target even more. The same goes, for example, for pull-ups. If you narrow the grip a lot, as I said previously, you're going to get a lot of arm involvement, right? A lot of biceps involvement. You should include arm focus variations as the secondary movement. You shouldn't do, because usually you start off with the lowest rep range, and then the reps of the movements slowly increase throughout the workout, right? You start with 3 to 5, then you move on to 6 to 8, and then you finish off with 8 to 12, for example. Well, you want to have that 6 to 12, or that range for the arm bias compounds, so you can hit higher volumes, right? Because it will allow you to feel the correct muscle during the movement. Now you have done all of these steps, and it's building up towards a thing which is called an arm day. You already have the arm bias compounds to which you can start your arm day, and you have also the high quality isolations. that you can slap into your arm day. Most people don't need it though, but it's a nice addition to your program since it can work as a low stress day to reduce the amount of deloads or auto regulation that you need to do over time. For me, at least, I have an upper body day, a lower body day. Well, lower body between air quotes. I just add banded RDLs, right? But I have an upper body day, a lower body day, and then I have my arms and shoulders day. That allows me that arms and shoulders day, which is six. It would be, yeah, 12 sets total for all the movements, as a minimum, right? Allows me to rest a little bit for the next upper body day. So it can work again to reduce the amount of deloads you can do over time. It works as a, let's just say, a buffer day. And also, I like to have my arm days as an experimentation day where I try a lot of strategies and a lot of movements. But your arm day should basically follow a similar template to starting with an arm bias pull and an arm bias press or a vertical press if you have a shoulders um, if you have an arm and shoulders day. As an optional thing, you can also add a triceps isolation or a rear delt or lateral head of the delts isolation or even forearm. It doesn't really matter. What you want to do basically is, of course, have the arm bias compounds, and if you want, you can slap in an isolation to get extra volume. Then the second superset is going to be pure isolations, in which you're going to go beyond failure. I like to start with stretch focused movements and then giving them a pump, basically following the Team 3D Alpha HSP program, heavy stretch and pump, only compound stretch and pump. That's what I like to how I like to do it, because again, stretch focus or mid length focus is going to give you the most stimulation for the least amount of sets, and when you take them to failure, you are taking them to failure. Okay. And also you want to pair it up with either shoulders or forearms isolation, because again, it won't hurt to have a third exercise. If you want to have another superset for specifically shoulders and forearms, you can have it. And then you have a third superset to accumulate even more to accumulate even more volume, but this time it's going to be again pump. It's going to be more focused on drawing blood into the area. You're still going to take it to failure though, and even beyond. And the rep ranges are going to increase over time. As I said, compound, stretch, and a pump. This allows you to accumulate high amounts of quality volume since your focus is to primarily hit your arms. Then we're going to delve into the two last strategies you can employ. But again, I encourage you to follow step 1 to 3 religiously, then maybe do step 4, maybe, and then start maybe considering including bias compounds and maybe an arm day. So these ones right here are like the top of the top of the mountain. You don't need anything else. Sorry, you don't need to do them. You can get like 95% of the results with these. But again, for those of you that want to get that little like cherry on top, that need to get the cherry on top to just catch up, I'm going to give you the strategies. It's going to be advanced techniques for accumulating high quality volume in a short amount of time. Basically, you have a lot of strategies you can employ. The first one is going to be cluster sets. You pick a weight, variation, or band of a certain band, right? A certain intensity you can do for 8 to 12 reps. You pick an amount of time in between 2 to 6 minutes, and you try to accumulate during those 2 to 6 minutes as many sets of 4 to 6 as possible. Basically, you take a certain weight that you can do for a certain amount of reps, you slash it in half for the sets, and you pick a time between 2 and 6, and you try to go ham on it and accumulate as many sets of those as possible. It's supposed to be super fucking hard. After 2 minutes, you should be like begging God to stop, and you should keep pushing, right? That is basically a cluster set. It allows you to accumulate a lot of volume. Bold Omni-Man made a pretty good video about that. The second one is going to be rest pause. You basically go to failure in a given set. You stop for 5 to 15 seconds and then you try to squeeze out more repetitions. You repeat until you deem as enough. You can set a total amount of reps you can hit. For example, if you grab a barbell and you're like, okay, you can curl this for like, I don't know, 10 reps, right? I'm going to aim to do 25. So you do your 10 reps, you fail, and then you grab it and you start rest pausing until you reach 25. That is called a rep goal set. You can also do it with pull-ups. It's pretty nice. But for arms, it's specifically good. For partials, it's perfect for concentric focus movements. You basically go through the whole range of motion in a given set, and when you hit the failure at the top, you still keep going through the available range of motion until you can't even do like tiny baby reps, right? You basically start doing the 100% range of motion. Once you fail at the 100% point, you go all the way to 95, then to 90, then to it's going to probably drop to 80, then 70, then 50, then 20, and until you're like doing like 5% range of motion movements, and that is going to allow you to get every single drop of a concentric movements stimulus. So I would really recommend to incorporate partials for isolations. Then it's going to be drop sets or mechanical drop sets. You basically do as many reps as possible on an exercise with a certain weight, right? Let's say you grab, you start bench pressing to 25 for, let's just say 12 reps. You fail. Once you hit failure, you lower the weight and change to an easier variation, or change to an easier variation, sorry, and you do again as many reps as possible and repeat 1 to 2 times. Of course, don't do this on bench press. It was just an example. Do it on isolations. For example, you're doing, I don't know, triceps push downs, right? And you hit failure on the rep. You lower the weight a little bit and you keep going until you fail. You lower the weight again and you keep going until you fail. That's basically it. You have agonistic supersets, basically supersets of the same muscle group. You pick a concentric mid-length focused movement, either of those, and the stretch mid-length focused movement of the same muscle, preferably hitting different joint angles and do them back to back. I would say you start pumping with, for example, tricep pushdowns, right? And then once you hit failure on those, you move on to tricep extensions, right? That's a good way of preventing, for example, a lot of joint stress, because first of all, you're drawing blood into the area. Second of all, you're not going to be able to use as much weight as you would normally do on the stretch-based movement. So it's going to be easier on the joints, and it's still going to allow you to accumulate a lot of volume. So yeah, I still wouldn't recommend this a lot unless you're like really sensitive in your joints, right? For example, if like extensions give you a lot of elbow pain, I would recommend doing this type of strategy if you want to have some type of stretch movements in your program, but you don't want to flare out the irritation on the tendons. So yeah. The sixth one is going to be cheated concentrics. This is also works for concentric based movements. You basically do the full range of motion, and once you hit failure, you cheat the concentric and slow down the eccentric. Basically, you cheat as much as you need to get that full rep, and then you slow down the eccentric as much as you can, and then you cheat again, and so on until you can't even like get any reps with slow eccentric. And the seventh one is going to be pump, then stretch, or do a compound. This is basically pre-exhaustion. You pump your desired muscle with a concentric focused movement in the 10 to 20 rep range. Go to concentric failure until like you can't even get you can't get the full range of motion, and then you follow it with either a stretch-based movement, which is similar to the agonistic superset I explained previously, or a compound movement. For example, you do cable pushdowns, then you do cable extensions or dips or diamond push-ups. This will allow you to get that stimulation from the compound movements, basically. So yeah, I forgot about nucleus overload. That's right. Um, Basically, nucleus overload is a strategy that helps you accumulate extra volume without touching the muscle, allowing you for extra stimulation at no cost at all. It's basically high volume, high frequency, and low intensity, and it consists of picking a joint-friendly movement, especially you can use bands or cables for your specific muscle, You do 10 to 20 plus total sets in the week, spread in sets of 3 to 6. Um, in sets of in 3 to 6 sets. That is worded in the wrong way. And you do it at the end of your workout. It's like an afterthought, right? And you do it basically in the 15 to 25 or the 20 to 30 rep range. Your goal is not to reach failure, but to get blood into the area, basically. Um, Recapping, because it's probably got confusing because I wrote it incorrectly. You basically have 10 to 20 plus total sets that you spread out in ranges of 3 to 6 sets per session, let's just say, that are going to be in the 15 to 25 or 20 to 30 rep range of movements that are low stress on the tendons. Bands are great for this. Again, you can do also, for example, diamond push-ups. And your goal is to get blood into the area to get a nice pump, but not to reach failure. High volume, high frequency, low intensity. And now, yeah, we can finish. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this strategy helps you, and leave me your thoughts in the comments below. So yeah, thank you.